Good evening. We are Chris Lee and Chase Robinson of Southeastern 16 here to talk about the day that was in college football. Rivalry Saturday. Chase also had rivalry games last night. We had rivalries. We had upsets. We had playoff landscaping changing wins and losses. We had fights. We had head coaches leaving to be offensive coordinators. Did I leave anything out?
Hey, there was a lot on the docket today. That's for sure. Which is what you expect at this time of the year in rivalry weekend. Man, it's been a fun couple of days.
Let's get right into it. And in case you are catching us on replay, Sam, I'm sorry I didn't see you today. Hope you didn't get pepper sprayed. We goodness, I don't even know where to start. Part of the story, we said when we did this live stream, it would not just be talking about the SEC because it's playoff time. You had other games elsewhere that had an impact on that. We'll get to some of those later. Maybe try to make a guess of, what the playoff rankings might look like Tuesday. But anyway, where I was going to get with this was if you're catching us on replay, we're going to talk about the games that have been completed, which means we will hold off on maybe the most anticipated game of the day, Texas and Texas A&M, which has just started the fourth quarter. As we're doing this, Texas was firmly in control of this one. Yep. And then Will Lee had a pick six and then a fumble by Texas after that. So anyway, we'll probably get to that one last for that reason. But what stood out to you today? I mean, we had obviously rivalry Saturday. You had two huge rivalry games with playoff implications. Well, really three. I'm not sure what stood out the most. Probably the Iron Bowl kind of always takes the cake because that's an SEC on SEC. Yeah. And I feel like maybe Alabama got itself back into the playoff hunt today by beating Auburn pretty decisively. And on top of that, you had some losses elsewhere, namely Miami losing at Syracuse. We'll see, does a two-loss Miami get knocked behind a three-loss Alabama? This is going to be one of the burning questions for Tuesday. But let's start there. Jalen Milroe, an erratic game, but ultimately was probably the difference in that one. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, it was look, Alabama, we knew they needed to take care of business. They did, and I thought that was a good performance coming off of what we saw against Oklahoma last week for Alabama. So I thought it was a good win for Alabama. Again, there's still some things that I feel like Alabama needs to clean up if they do get a shot at the playoff and for the next game when they play in a bowl game. We know they'll have one more game at least in a bowl game. So there's some things you want to see cleaned up by Alabama, but I feel like it was a good win. Again, the Iron Bowl is it's a tough game, and we've seen a lot of good ones over the years. And so I thought that was a good win for Alabama. They did some good things. Jalen Milroe did some good things. Jeremy Bernard, I thought, was big at receiver. He had some big-time plays, and to have somebody step up at that receiver position I thought was good. So, yeah, a good win for Alabama today in what's always a tough game.
It was kind of everything on Alabama on display today. Milroe running for, 3 touchdowns, but they also turned it over, 4 times?
Yeah. So, yeah, there was quite a bit of turnovers in that game. For Auburn had a couple, Alabama had a few. I mean, there was a lot of turnovers in that football game.
Yeah, and maybe the decisive thing, I was listening to this on the radio when I was driving home from Vanderbilt and Tennessee, which we'll get to here in a little bit. Auburn got the ball, I don't know inside the 1 right before the half, got stuffed back on a run, settled for a field goal. Felt like that was, I'm not going to say Auburn's last chance, but that felt like a big momentum boost for Alabama heading into halftime.
It did, yeah. That was a big boost, and I feel like Alabama came out in the second half and really did what they needed to do and kind of keep the foot on the gas. And so, yeah, I thought, and look, Auburn coming off that win over A&M, I thought they've been playing better. Again, there's still a lot for Auburn that I know as their season is over now, they're going to be looking at and looking to fill some places and improve in a lot of different areas. But I feel like they were playing better, and so I thought for Alabama to go out and do what they did with a team that's playing better, I thought that was good.
Yeah. I guess the next one we'll talk about South Carolina and Clemson. Lenore Sellers again. Well, actually, it was Rocket Sanders, I guess, a couple weeks ago. South Carolina again with a last-minute touchdown run. What was 3rd and 16? Sellers gets a touchdown with a few seconds left. They get a pick to seal it at the end. I don't think Lenore Sellers is SEC Player of the Year, but I think he might be SEC Player of the second half of the season. Is that fair?
Look, Lenore Sellers is, to me, the most improved player in college football. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go beyond the SEC and all of college football. The most improved player. What we saw from him the last few weeks has been, you could tell he's just getting confident. He's getting settled into his role as quarterback and getting his legs under him and really seeing the field, which is important, obviously, for the quarterback. But today, I feel like, again, he took that up to another notch, maybe a couple of more notches. Just tremendous, and it took the team on his back when they needed it. Again, his running ability is just incredible. Kind of seeing holes, finding them. His movement on the field is really good. I mean, most improved player in college football from the start of the season to the end of the season, in my opinion, more than anybody else. And so,
yeah,
it's amazing what he's been able to do. And again, when their offense was having trouble moving the ball on Clemson for most of the day, for him to be able to make happen what he did, man, just hats off to him and the offensive line. I thought they did a great job as well. Man, I was on the edge of my seat for that whole game, watching South Carolina and Clemson, and man, hats off to Shane Beamer and South Carolina for getting that done.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today. Get in on all the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. I'll circle back to playoff implications later, but I said rivalry games, probably 3 of them that also had playoff implications. The third one here would be Tennessee coming into Vanderbilt and winning. I was in the press box for that one. Vanderbilt jumped out to a 14-0 lead, not even 5 minutes in, runs the opening kickoff back. And kind of from that point on, Tennessee just dominated. I thought Nico Imaliava was really, really good today. Dylan Sampson was terrific. Dante Thornton had a good game. 2 big touchdown catches before he missed some time in the second half. By the way, James Pierce Jr. kind of in out in the second half of that one. John Campbell, their starting right tackle, was banged up a little bit, missed a little bit of time in that one. Don't know his status coming out of the game. But, I thought a very impressive performance for Tennessee. Early in the year, teams used to just kind of, like what Arkansas did, just drop a bunch of guys in coverage and make him make a throw. Today, Vanderbilt couldn't get pressure on them, and he just found single coverage time and time again and picked Vanderbilt apart.
He did, and I thought that was a really good performance by Tennessee. One of the best I feel like we've seen from them because, again, Vanderbilt went out to a lead, and Tennessee didn't bat an eye. They found ways to come back and make it interesting, and eventually take the lead and eventually win. And so I feel like Tennessee made the adjustments they needed to do, and Iam Aliava really settled in and threw for 4 touchdowns and 257 yards, going 18 for 26. So he had a good day. And again, I thought Tennessee, they're a team that has steadily improved. And once you look at this team, and again, they've had some first half issues, some inconsistency. They didn't. They had 7 points first quarter, 17 in the second quarter, then 9 third, and 3 in the fourth quarter. But I thought they had a really good first half and were able to stick to that in the second half. So they put together a complete game, which I feel like for Tennessee we haven't seen a ton of this season in SEC play.
Well, and Tennessee did something too. Vanderbilt doesn't run out a lot of yards, but it's been good at generating a couple of explosive plays a game. And really, after that kickoff return, Vanderbilt just didn't do much offensively. Tennessee gave them a short field for that second touchdown, and that was about it. But Tennessee, in a night where I'm trying to figure out what the sure things are, they'll be a sure thing for the playoff next week, and probably going to host a game at this point, I would think.
I would think so too. We'll see, how everything shakes out, I guess. But I would imagine they would. I mean, yeah. I think that they're in a position where they could, which is big for Tennessee to be able to do that. I know that's exciting for the Vol fans.
All right, and again, we're going to circle back to some other games in the playoff race later. I just wanted to recap all the games quickly for a couple of minutes. Next one up, I think let's go to the Snow Bowl in Columbia, Missouri, where they got some of the white powder dumped on them this morning, about 3 inches of snow there. The field really, when I watched it, there weren't as many issues with slickness and all those things as I would have thought. But Brady Cook, man, this guy just comes up big time and time again when it matters. Game's tied. He takes off on like a, 25, 30-yard scramble to get it. They clinch it at the end. Oh, gosh, I can't remember which of the safeties had a big play. Arkansas throwing a touchdown pass, and the guy, I think Joseph Charleston maybe was the safety who came over, knocked it away. And I think they had one more play after that that was a Hail Mary incompletion. But Brady Cook, we said all along, this kid was going to keep playing. Missouri means the world to him. This was a big, big game for him. He came up big with the biggest play in that game is Luther Burden just kind of disappeared again. Don't know what's going on with that one. But Brady Cook the difference in a 28-21 win over Arkansas.
Yeah, and I thought, it was tremendous by Brady Cook. We know, look, he's a game changer. We've said it before. He's a guy that finds ways to lead his team to a win, and so I thought that was a great performance from Brady Cook. He found guys to go to, and it's been interesting for Missouri this year because the times he hasn't been in, obviously the times that they've struggled to move the ball, to win games. But when he's in, I trust Missouri because he is that kind of quarterback that is a great leader, first of all, and he has a lot of skill. And so therefore he can find ways to get his team in the end zone and win games.
Yeah. Missouri not going to be in the playoff chase, barring something just really, really crazy. But hey, Missouri goes 9-3, 5-3 in the league. I know it was probably the easiest schedule in the league, maybe the side of Texas, but 5-3 against anybody in this league right now is pretty good. So I think Missouri will be going to a pretty nice bowl. I don't know if there'll be a formerly New Year's Six type bowl or what that'll be. I'm guessing that's going to be like a Florida bowl, like a Gator or Citrus, that kind of thing. But in any case, hats off to Brady Cook in Missouri. Next one, let's get to let's go with earlier in the day, Kentucky, Louisville. Louisville just jumped all over Kentucky, forced a quarterback change. Mark Stoops, basically said in the press conference, it sounded like, hey, I know everybody wants me gone. I'm going to get back to work at tomorrow and fix things. I think that was a streak of 8 straight bowl games that got snapped. Man, Kentucky's only win this year over Ole Miss, which may keep Ole Miss out of the playoff. Who would have ever thought that? But changed quarterbacks again. Bench Cutter Boley did not go back to Vanderbilt, went to Gavin Wimsatt. But Kentucky just couldn't get anything going. Louisville, which I think is a very good team, just kind of stepped on the gas early and put that one out of reach, I think, by halftime.
Yeah, and they moved the ball so well. Kentucky just really couldn't stop them in so many different ways. And Kentucky. I mean, they press the reset button now. It's over for the year for the Wildcats. You have a chance now to reset things as far as personnel and positions and what you're going to do and try to turn this thing around, because at moments it started out good for them. They were playing really good defensively and played Georgia close, and I feel like you get a win over Ole Miss, and then the wheels kind of fall off. And so keeping up consistency and figuring things out now is what your task is before you take the field next August.
By the way, as I said, we wouldn't talk about it till it's over, but are you watching Texas and A&M right now?
I'm not just the score tracker thing.
Texas is trying to give this away. A&M just blocked a punt and frankly should have returned it for a score.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll hit that later. Let's go Oklahoma and LSU. LSU, a really impressive 37-17 win. Garrett Nussmeier throws for 277. I think climbs up some school single season passing list. I think he's second behind Burrow now. Threw 3 touchdowns. Left early with, I think maybe it was a shoulder injury. They played A.J. Swan a little bit. He came back and had a pretty nice game. Aaron Anderson returned a kickoff for 100 yards. Oklahoma just really unable to get much going, moving the ball again with Jackson Arnold. And LSU again, and watching them against Vandy last week, that had the hallmark of a team that could quit in that spot but did not. And LSU kind of a sneaky good 8-4 to end the regular season. And I think going to a nice bowl as well.
I think they're playing good right now. And I was wondering, we've talked about this, I was wondering how they would come out after that blowout loss to Alabama. And I thought that they have responded really well to that. And they haven't given up. They're playing hard. And they're finding creative ways again offensively. Nussmeier, great day, and getting some guys involved, getting the run game going. So I feel like LSU's in a really good spot right now where they're playing good football here at the end of the season. And you may say, well, it's a little too late for them to play really good football because they've lost too many games. But I do think they get a good bowl game, and they've got a lot to build on. But I do think LSU's playing. I thought that was a good win for them today. And the way they were able to do that, especially with Oklahoma getting a little momentum after the big win over Alabama last week. And, I don't know if Oklahoma just didn't have any gas left in the tank or what, but I thought the game plan was great for LSU. The execution was good. And frankly, I thought that was a really good performance by LSU today.
I thought all the Brian Kelly talk was really dumb.
Oh, yeah.
I get that fan base is impatient. Most of the ones in the SEC are, but the guy has been so consistent year in and year out.
He has, and I that's all nonsense. Yeah, there's no reason to be having any of that conversation.
Okay, I think we got to all the ones today. We did not get to Florida State. I didn't catch a play of that because, frankly, the other games were a lot more compelling. Florida State couldn't move the ball again. At least it will be getting an offensive coordinator. It sounds like. If you didn't hear news coming out today out of Central Florida, is that Gus Malzahn is leaving the head coaching job there to go be the OC at Florida State, which, boy, that's a statement about the power structure alone.
I did not have that as news I thought I would hear today. I'll be honest there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was a maybe resign under pressure kind of thing, or what the deal was with Malzahn. But that I was with you that I didn't expect to hear that. But yeah, Montrell Johnson ran the ball again. Well today, didn't carry it a ton. Um, Florida didn't really need much because FSU's offense is just awful. And
Yeah.
Florida won this one that was up 14-0 at half. Um, yeah, again, I didn't get to see much of it. I thought Florida might move the ball a little bit more, but that defense, that speaking of second half of the season stories, that's one right there. That's really one
Yeah.
right there because I don't think either of us had Florida becoming a pretty good defensive team down the stretch, especially with some of those injuries on the scorecard of things.
Yeah, I mean, look, Florida has been a tremendous story. We've talked about South Carolina and the story that is right now, but Florida is a great story as well. Just from one, the schedule, all the talk in the offseason, Billy Napier, this, that, and the other. Like so much around this team, and yet they've been able to still rally and win games and play together, not give up, play behind Billy Napier, and he's got a lot of support right now, and rightfully so. I think he's done a great job with what he has. Again, there's been times where you think, oh my goodness, injuries are going to get him. They have guys come back, they're able to get it done. Like incredible story of what Florida's doing right now, and a great win for them today. I know Florida State's just bad, but Florida did a great job. Great win for the Gators.
Let's get to a couple of games from earlier in the week, I guess Friday to be exact, but before we start unwinding some other games and playoff implications. But Georgia Tech was one for the ages last night. Now that one's going to be talked about for a while for two reasons other than football. One, the overtime rules. Two, frankly some awful officiating calls. No, Georgia Tech had a couple things that went its way too, but there were three ones that stood out in particular. But Georgia, Carson Beck was terrific. 5 touchdowns, no picks. Again, not a lot of help from his receivers at times, but Georgia just kind of hung on. Well, didn't hung on, came back, and then hung on
Yeah.
at the end to gut one out in overtime. And they were down 14 points with 6.5 minutes left. I thought that one was pretty much over at that point.
Yeah, I was doing a high school game last night, so I wasn't watching. I was keeping up with it. And then we flipped it on the radio on our drive back from the game, and I was listening to the end of it, and then all 8 overtimes. And yeah, I was shocked when I was just looking at the score. Okay, Georgia Tech's up a couple of touchdowns. Okay, and then you look, oh, Georgia is coming back. They had some things go their way for them to get in that position, but Georgia, incredible job fighting back. They didn't give up. Georgia in those positions, like if you're in a position where you're up on Georgia, I don't think you can ever count them out until the clock hits zero, because Georgia is going to find a way to come back. And we've seen that this season, and they did last night. Yeah, I thought that was great job by Georgia of taking advantage of opportunities given to them towards the end of that game and making it happen. And again, it was, again, I wasn't watching, I was listening. So I've gone back and watched some and saw some highlights, but yeah, that was wild. And I always forget about the overtime rule until I'm sitting there watching it. Like last week when we saw the Auburn A&M game where it comes down to the 2-point conversions. But I mean, it's such a strange situation to have to go through that many 2-point conversion tries and plays. But I thought Georgia, again, they got it done, and so hats off to Georgia coming back and making the plays to do it.
By the way, I'm not going to put this in the win column for Texas yet because my goodness, Texas is just handed a few things to A&M tonight. Taking no credit away from A&M, but it's been an interesting second half to say the least. Ethan Burke just murdered Amari Daniels in the backfield on a 4th and goal play from about the 1. So Texas is going to get the ball up 10 with about 4.5 to play. So just needs to be careful not to turn it over, pick up a couple of the first downs, you get a punt. So anyway, that one kind of shifted out in College Station. Last one, we'll talk briefly about Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Not a super impressive win for Ole Miss, but rivalry game. We said all week we had no idea what Ole Miss team would show up, and turned out was the team just good enough to get a win. I don't think Ole Miss was ever really threatened at any point in the second half, but didn't really put the hammer down on State either.
Yeah, you're right. And when Mississippi State, scored a couple touchdowns in the first half, I felt like I was seeing a little confidence, a little optimism for Mississippi State, but obviously Ole Miss defense came out and played good the rest of the game, and were able to put 26 points on the board. But I thought maybe Mississippi State got some momentum from that game, especially after that first quarter. But yeah, I think Ole Miss did what they had to do and settled in and got the job done. But I'm obviously end of the season for Mississippi State. Year one over Jeff Lebby. I thought they've done some good things offensively this year. They don't have a defense to stop anybody. That's been the problem with Starkville. But I think there's some good things to take away from State. Offensively, Michael Van Buren, him coming in, kind of leading the charge there and getting some things done. But Ole Miss did what they had to do to win the game, and I think they're ready to kind of hit the reset, look at the bowl game, the postseason picture, and try to make something happen. But I think it's a good time now for Ole Miss just to sit back and take a deep breath and figure some things out.
Yeah, I don't think Ole Miss is 100% out of the playoff chase. Now, I don't believe Ole Miss is going to get there, but some stuff happened elsewhere today, which we said, hey, let's watch some other scores other places, because that could open up a path for an Alabama or an Ole Miss or a South Carolina. And so let's set the stage. Things of note that happened today: Ohio State upset by Michigan. Michigan was a 20.5 point underdog. Ohio State just cannot beat Michigan for whatever reason. I don't know that that's going to change anything. I'm still pretty sure a 2-loss Ohio State is going to get in the playoff. But,
yeah,
Ohio State was pretty much a sure thing coming into today. And we said all week, look, stuff is going to happen that we don't have on our radar. That we're not talking about enough because it's been that kind of season. And that was one of the things that sort of started off the day and said, this is the kind of nutty day it is going to be.
Yeah, you're right. And it has been a day. That is for sure.
All right, next one. And I think this is the bigger one with ramifications. I said a couple to watch. You wanted Notre Dame to go to Southern Cal, take a loss. That didn't happen. But not a lot of people were talking about Syracuse beating Miami. That did happen. Miami has now lost 2 games, and I think that's one of the teams we're going to be looking at specifically. Are you going to let a 10-2 Miami or a 9-3 Alabama or a 9-3 South Carolina in? That's a door that may be open somewhere for somebody. SMU did beat Cal. You didn't want that to happen if you were an Alabama or a South Carolina or someone like that. I don't know that really changes anything. The ACC was going to get a team anyway. If SMU goes and beats Clemson next week and that matchup is now set, that won't be anything that changes anything. Did not think Indiana would lose to Purdue. Indiana wins that one 66-0. No shocker there. And I guess, let's see, we're going to have – I think we're getting close to having the title matchup in the Big 12. If Iowa State hangs on, it's got the ball up 8 with 2 minutes left. If Iowa State wins that one, it will be playing. Let's see. No, I'm sorry. BYU, if BYU beats Houston tonight, then BYU is going to be facing SMU. If BYU loses to Houston and Iowa State hangs, it'll be Iowa State in that one. So keep an eye on that. I don't know that – I think the ACC is just going to be a one big league. Now, the interesting thing would be, could a 2-loss SMU get in? Schedule wasn't great, don't know. But just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Do you want to let this Texas game play out and then get into the playoffs, or do you want to start discussing those now?
Let's see. We're at 350 left in Texas.
Yeah.
We can. It doesn't matter. We can let this one finish up and then get into that. I just some early thoughts on Texas A&M. I thought Texas defense looked good tonight.
Yes.
We knew that A&M, they're a running team, and I thought Texas has done a great job of stopping the run tonight. I just felt like there was no rhythm offensively that A&M could get into because of Texas's defense. And the touchdown for A&M was a pick six. Texas had a goal line stand a couple of minutes ago to stop the Aggies from getting in. So I was really impressed with, and that's what I was interested in. Of was this going to be a both teams scoring a lot and whoever could win a shootout, or was Texas defense going to come ready to play? And I thought they looked tremendous tonight. I was impressed with Longhorns D.
I think they've got the best defense in college football. Again, haven't seen them play in person this year. They're just so good all over the field. Been a little banged up in the defensive backfield at times, but they're deep. They've got everything you want. And I think the other thing tonight, Trey Wisner's having a game. He may go over 200 by the time this is done. Remember, their backfield is kind of a committee situation after the preseason, or can't remember when their starting back got hurt early on. But Arch Manning gave him a touchdown on a really nice run when he came in for Ewers briefly. Texas is just a couple of plays from maybe being about ready to salt this one away.
Yeah, and there's been some. I mentioned the pick six, but there was a fumble. So there's been some turnovers, but I thought again Texas has done what they needed to do defensively to stop A&M, to force them in throwing situations, to slow down the run. They have done a great job tonight defensively, and again, they've been able to put 17 points on the board. They haven't scored in the second half to me, which is a little concerning for Texas. But again, A&M has made some adjustments as well. But because of the good start for Texas, they're in a position where they lead by 10 here with around 3 minutes to go, and they've been able to move the ball pretty well also tonight. But the defense for Texas again is really impressed me.
I think right now, if I had to pick a team to win the whole thing, I think it's Texas. I really do.
Yeah.
And I get that the offensive inconsistency tonight, the two big turnovers, the block punt. Well, guess what? And the receipts are out there. Everybody was trashing Georgia fourth quarter last night. No, the SEC's down and all these hot takes on all that. That's just everybody this year, man.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody looks bad for a spurt of the season.
You're right. Yeah.
Name me a team that has not had an off night or two, and usually two.
Yeah, everyone has, and I think Texas could, from what I saw tonight, and especially again, I keep going back to their defense. Their defense is what can win Texas a championship. Their offense can do enough to score, but their defense is what can win them a championship. Yeah. That's how good they are.
I would have to check the stat sheet on them, and you almost never see this at a power conference team. Not this day and age. I think that they have picked off twice as many passes as they've given up touchdown passes.
Wow, yeah.
Which is pretty amazing.
It is.
And see, I think even with the inconsistency with the offense, sometimes they got two dudes at quarterback that they can go to. Now that Wisner's really given them a game like he's given them tonight. And did you see the play? Who was it that had it earlier in the game? The one-handed touchdown catch in the back of the end zone.
Yes.
That was that Wingo? No, it's Jaden Blue. That's the
Yeah.
only ball he caught
Blue.
tonight. Unbelievable catch. And an unbelievable throw. I mean, there was a window really no bigger than a shoebox that ball had to go in.
Yeah.
And if I'm the DB on the coverage there, I'm just going like, I don't think it's running through my mind for a second that kid's about to make the catch. If you didn't see it, go back and watch it on replay. Back pylon of the end zone. Blue is facing Ewers and kind of running backwards. Defender all over him and just kind of catches the ball out. I think it even hit the DB in the arm, and he held on to it with one hand. They didn't call it on the field, went to replay and rightfully ruled it a touchdown. But
Yeah.
it just that, and that's what they've got. They've just got so many guys like Gunnar Helm. They've got Wingo. Matthew Golden's really good player. DeAndre Moore. Just a lot of guys on offense who can make plays. In a defense, it just doesn't give you much of anything. Like what was the high point total they allowed this year? I guess that was the Georgia game.
Yeah.
But some of that I think was on the offense. Maybe been a long time. By the way, that win at Michigan now looking a lot better. Michigan kind of caught fire down the stretch of the season, but
Yeah. I want to know this, and this doesn't have anything to do with play on the field. What is with all the flag planting today that has caused all these fights? It, you would think that, and I know every player probably, especially these night games, saw what happened with Michigan Ohio State this morning. But I keep seeing the flags being planted. It happened at the end of Florida State, a huge fight as Florida planted their flag in the middle of Florida State's field and caused a huge fight. And so I don't know what it is. You know, last week it was all the talk about the storming the field early. Today it's been a theme of flag planting causing fights.
well, I mean, okay, it got so bad between Ohio State and Michigan they had to bring out the pepper spray. You had a post game thing between North Carolina State and North Carolina. I can't remember if a flag there was involved. You mentioned Florida, Auburn, Alabama. I thought we're going to get into a brawl. Got chippy between Vandy and Tennessee today. Nothing near a fight, but like it's kind of funny. Like you think in this era where it's portal all the time and guys playing for 3 and 4 different schools that like loyalty and stuff like and rivalries don't matter. Like that totally went all out the window today.
Yes,
Guys were just added at the drop of a hat.
they did. It was wild, and obviously, look, rivalry games mean a lot to these players, and they want to defend their team and their home turf and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's been a wild day as far as fights go in college football. I haven't seen this many in one day. I don't know.
Okay,
Ever.
Texas A&M going to have one last gasp here. Got the ball, $1:49 left from about its own 42. By the way, Reuben Owens came back tonight. That snuck up on me.
Yeah,
I thought he'd been ruled out for the season, but I guess he got healthy late season. I don't know how much difference it's going to make, but maybe a few more weeks, maybe a month to heal for a bowl game because he was there. I believe he was supposed to be their starting running back coming into the season, was he not?
yeah, he was.
I think he was ahead of Moss.
Yeah,
who's also out for the year. Okay, there's a sack and a fumble. Texas gets it. That should wrap it up. Who had the hit there on Reed? Well, I don't know who had the hit, but there's a flag. So is that coming back? The way Texas is acting, it doesn't look like it.
So we will have, barring something crazy, a Texas-Georgia SEC championship, a rematch from a game we saw mid-season. So that's exciting for an
Okay,
SEC championship.
yeah, and with that, let's just kind of set the playoff picture. Okay, it's going to be Georgia, Texas in the title game. I think Texas win. Well, obviously the winner gets in. I think if Georgia wins, both teams are definitely in. And I think both teams are probably in anyway. We got Penn State and Oregon out in the Big Ten. I think that's going to be inconsequential. I think both teams there are getting in. Clemson and SMU are going. If SMU wins, then I think the ACC is a two-bid league tops. If Clemson wins, then it gets very interesting. So that's going to be a game that SEC fans are going to want to scoreboard watch. And Big 12, Arizona State is already in. And we've got BYU and Houston. Do you have a score on that one already? I think that one's been underway for a little bit.
Look.
10-7 Houston in the second quarter. Okay, that's a
yeah.
little bit of a shock. Although Houston pulled an upset against somebody a couple of weeks ago. So not totally out of the realm of possibility. If BYU loses that one, Iowa State has just beaten Kansas State. And I think Iowa State has still got maybe a snowball's chance at the playoff either way. I think it's probably south of what South Carolina and Alabama have, but it's not zero either. So
right.
I think Iowa State is going to keep an eye on BYU and Houston. So that'll be the stage in the Power Four, and then out in the Mountain West, you're going to have Boise and UNLV. Winner of that is going to get in. So here's what I've got. I've sort of gone through the playoff rankings and tried to guess what the committee's going to do. Okay, Oregon is going to stay at 1, presuming it wins, and it's beaten Washington, so that one's done. I think Texas moves up past Ohio State and goes from 3 to 2. Question is, where does Ohio State fall? Penn State should move from 4 to 3. Notre Dame up from 5 to 4. I guess Georgia would move up from 6 to 5. They could slot Ohio State ahead of Georgia, but I'm not sure about that. Georgia's got much better wins.
They do, yes. Ohio State's curious to me of how far they drop. I'm really curious on that. And that has a lot to do with the rest of it, I feel like.
Yeah, and if Georgia goes up to 5, Georgia's going to make the playoffs. I think we can pretty safely say that's at least 2 for this. Actually, that's 3 because Tennessee I presume Tennessee will move from 8 to 6. I think would a 2 that'll be interesting. Do they put a 2-loss Ohio State ahead of a 2-loss Tennessee? Yeah, losing at Michigan, or excuse me, no, they lost at home to Michigan. Okay, Tennessee at least lost on the road to Arkansas.
Yeah.
Ohio State's other loss was Oregon out there, and then Tennessee's was at Alabama. So that's close to a wash. So I think that'll be something I'll be interested to see. Does Tennessee move ahead of Ohio State? But either way, I think Tennessee at this point is pretty safely in, and I'd be some crazy stuff would probably have to happen for the Balls not. Well, I mean, I guess you never know with championships next week, with teams adding an extra win. But I think Tennessee is in and probably getting a first round game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they're in. Yeah, and I think they should get a first round game.
Okay, so I think right now Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, and probably Ohio State also, with where the committee had OSU at 2. I think that's 7 teams right there that you would have to draw up some kind of crazy scenario for none of those teams getting in.
Yeah.
Okay, so that eliminates the SEC auto bid because that's already baked into that. That also bakes in the Big Ten championship game. So then you've got, if I'm right, and it's Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State. Then you get ACC winner, especially if it's If it's SMU, that probably cleans up a little bit more of the picture. So that's 8. Big 12 winner is 9. Either Arizona State, BYU, or Iowa State. Colorado now eliminated, by the way, with Iowa State winning. So Colorado won't be going to the playoffs. So now you've got, what we say that's, if you throw in Mountain West, that's 10.
Yeah.
Indiana's going to be 11. I can't see them letting Indiana, a one-loss Indiana, fall out. So I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah.
So let me make sure my math's right. Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State. That's 7. Big 12 is 8. ACC is 9. Mount West is 10. Indiana would be 11, so that leaves Miami, Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, SMU, if Clemson wins, would be on the board. And I guess that's about it.
Yeah.
Tell me, am I missing something here?
I don't think so. That sounds right to me.
So
without, looking at it.
Gosh. So right now, my guess is that last spot goes to Alabama over Miami.
I think I don't think they put Miami in. I really don't.
Okay.
Because you look at their losses, their losses are not good.
At Georgia Tech, at Syracuse. And I guess you could say, okay, Georgia nearly lost to Georgia Tech at home. That's fair.
Yeah.
But it didn't. Miami's best wins, best 5, at Louisville, at Florida, at Cal, Virginia Tech, Duke. Nothing else of note. Alabama has banked.
I saw the graphic going on Miami and SMU. They're both of their best wins are against Louisville.
Yeah. Alabama's banked Georgia, at LSU, South Carolina, Missouri, Auburn, at Wisconsin. Losses at Tennessee, at Oklahoma, at Vandy. So I think right now Alabama, to me, is the last team in. I think the other one to talk about is South Carolina.
It's going to come down to what the committee goes by, because let's just be honest, it's been different stuff. If the committee says, hey, let's put the team who is playing the hottest right now, then I would lean towards South Carolina being that team.
Yeah.
But if you look at, again, who Alabama's won, okay, they beat Georgia, who's in there, and their strength of schedule is like 1 point higher than South Carolina. Oh, and Alabama has beaten South Carolina. Oh, then Alabama will go in. It's just going to come down to what the committee decides to do. I have no idea. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it'll be Alabama that gets in, but would it surprise me if South Carolina gets in? No. That's the committee is going to have a very tough decision with this. And I mean, you look head to head. Well, Alabama has that. It was close in Tuscaloosa, but Alabama got the win. But if they go by, hey, who is playing the hottest right now, then South Carolina is definitely playing better, I would say, than Alabama is at the moment.
Yeah, South Carolina's best 5, or best 6, at Clemson, A&M, Missouri, at Kentucky, at Oklahoma, at Vandy. Kentucky, I would drop down the pecking order of those. But losses were at Alabama in a close one, Ole Miss, and, of course, that LSU game. Boy, you'd love to have that one again.
Yeah. I say we just put Alabama and South Carolina on the field again next Saturday and let them play for it.
Hey, why? Well, I mean, and so technically Carolina's got better losses. I mean, I would rather have lost those games the way it did than Alabama. The Mississippi State, the Ole Miss loss was a little lopsided. So I think that's where they're going to come down. And of course, at that point, if it's between those two teams, if they go head to head, granted it was in Tuscaloosa, my guess is that's where they go.
Yeah.
Plus, Alabama was higher in the rankings last week. So the more I look at it, I think the ACC is now going to be a one-bid league.
Yeah, and you look at common opponents too, and I think they do look at that between Alabama and South Carolina. And South Carolina lost LSU by 3, and Alabama steamrolled LSU. So I think that's something else the committee may look at. Again, who knows? But I just say that they have a big decision to make here. But since they put Alabama at 13 last week and South Carolina at 15, I don't see South Carolina jumping Alabama at this point. I really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong. Again, look, I have no idea what they're going to do, but I don't see them doing that.
Now, if Clemson wins that game, they could put a 2-loss SMU team over either of them, but I just don't think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think SMU's a good team, but the wins just really aren't there. I mean, their best win was who? At BYU? No, wait, BYU beat them at Louisville. Like, well, that's right. You said that earlier. So I think, to me, it did clear it up a lot. I think, to me, it is. Now, here's the other thing. If South Carolina, Alabama were that close, they look at it today, obviously beating Clemson is a more impressive win than getting Auburn in your building. So there's that too.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it's going to come down to, honestly.
Yeah, and again, we'll have to wait and see Tuesday night, and really next Tuesday night, December the 8th, to find out, or next Sunday to find out who is in. But I have no idea. When you look at I'm looking at the common opponents now. I missed one between those two. Of course, I mentioned LSU and then Oklahoma, so it kind of balances themselves out with close win over LSU over South Carolina, and Alabama beating LSU. South Carolina big win over Oklahoma. Oklahoma big win over Alabama. 2-point win for Alabama against South Carolina. I mean, it's just it's balancing itself out. So it's going to come down to who the committee I guess wants to see in there. I hate to put it that way, but I'm baffled by kind of how the committee has gone thus far and who they put in. So could they jump Alabama? Yeah, but I just feel like with the way they placed them last week, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, because I have no idea.
Well, I think we'll know Tuesday. Because they will, they'll either jump South Carolina over Alabama based on a better win this weekend, or they'll leave it the way it was.
Yeah.
So now the other wild card, we kind of dismissed Miami, but I mean, I say that I don't think like the committee thinks. To me, that would be an obvious one. I would easily put in either of those SEC teams over Miami, but they were 6 last week, so
yeah,
we're presuming they're going to drop down below those teams.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me if they put them at 12, honestly, because I don't think a team that's lost has dropped more than 6 spots.
Yeah. Yes, I think we'll know. We'll have a pretty good idea on the SEC next week. Now here's one for you. What if, well, I was going to say, if you would a 3-loss Georgia and a 3-loss Alabama on the same scale knock Georgia out? I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't know.
Given Alabama had to head there.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to think about. But yeah, I think the more I think about it, I think we're going to see. I think the SEC is going to get probably 4, and it feels like now the committee still has Miami ahead of either of those. I think we're going to find out if that 4th team is either South Carolina or Alabama.
Right.
So
yeah,
feels like where we'll settle come Tuesday, unless I have missed something here. All right, let's do
but they may
medal
keep them
stand.
both out, honestly,
Well, that's true too.
and not even worry about it.
Yeah. Medal stand teams, gold, silver, bronze. What you got?
Let's see. I'll go. I'll go South Carolina gold. It's the way they came back. I'm going to go Texas silver. And I'll go Missouri bronze, finding a way to win. Brady Cook.
Okay. I'll go South Carolina gold, Texas silver. I'm going to go Alabama bronze.
Okay.
Because the Iron Bowl, you win that transcends the records. I mean, Tennessee could be in consideration because the Vols look really good today.
Yeah.
You could put LSU up there, Missouri. There's a lot of ways we could go with that one, or for that matter, Georgia last night. But players, gold, silver, bronze.
That's tough. Because I don't have everything in front of me. I will look. I'm going to put Lenora Sellers up there to me at the top in gold. Past that, I'm not sure.
I'm going to go Jalen Milroe silver.
Yeah, he's definitely up there.
And Carson Beck bronze. I mean, you could argue Nico up there. You could argue Dylan Sampson. I thought Beck going 5 touchdowns, no picks in that game last night and helping them come back was pretty big. Brady Cook could be in there too. I mean, that's Sellers to me was the easy pick of the bunch, and then I could argue a half dozen guys from there. So. Parting thoughts.
I mean, I'm looking forward to SEC championship. It's hard to believe that we wrapped up the regular season today. I feel like football season just flies by, but the conference championship, I think, is going to be a good one between Texas and Georgia. I can't wait to do a prediction video on that early next week. We'll drop that. I think it'll be a different game than what we saw, a couple months back when they met the first time. So I'm excited about that, and to see who gets that bye first round representing the SEC. But I thought it was a great day of rivalry games. A lot of teams did what they needed to do, and that was win their games. And we've got an interesting scenario as we've been talking about it. Hey, I'm excited to see.
Yeah, a good day for the league overall. I mean, we talked about a nightmare scenario where, and we said it was incredibly unlikely, but the league could end up getting 1 bid, or maybe 2. I think it feels like they're going to get 4 leaving the day, which I think would be the correct call. Would feel like a win for the league. Speaking of winning, league's been doing a lot of that in basketball. We've been doing a lot of live streams. We're doing them probably 5 days a week. Hope you're watching those. To get them, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, so you know when we do those. The league is just, if you think they're good in football, I think they're better in basketball this year. It's amazing what the league has done. All the big wins last week in the tournaments. Even talking some baseball in the offseason. Hope you're there for that. Hope everybody had a happy and safe Thanksgiving. God bless you all. For Chase Robinson, I'm Chris Lee. You have been watching Southeastern 16, presented by Bet Online.